Hashem echad, being ma'ached Hashem in absolutely everything you do, right? And that was what Yaakov Avinu was doing. Please.
Can we just dedicate this share to my aunt, to your side, Matel Bas Shimon?
Matel Bas Shimon should be Le'ili Nishmas Matel Bas Shimon. Okay, should be a skus. Glad you're here for that. Okay, so Yaakov Avinu, we said, represented the idea of unifying everything you do, and that's what makes tefillah easier. As Fasema said, tefillah is so hard, that's your only eitzah. If it's throughout the day, your focus, all the things you do in all the different places, on the idea of being an Eved Hashem, then tefillah is easier. So as Fasema had pointed out, that Parshas Vayetze is unique in the Torah. It has no paragraphs. It's all one straight thing until Yaakov Avinu comes back to Eretz Yisrael, which he says symbolizes the fact that Yaakov Avinu stayed on point the whole time, and he was there doing all these different things. He was out in the field with the sheep. He was dealing with this and all these things. It was all one journey, right? And that is something to keep in mind. Okay, this week, for Parshas Vayishlach, we're going to dip into a little bit the world of Medrash and Remez that connects things from the Parsha to Chanuka. Okay, and these things aren't as far as we might think they are, even though Chanuka happened much, much later. But first of all, the Chachamim always say that the way the Parshas come out are not random. And we have to see that Yaakov Avinu's journey into Golus and his struggles in Golus very much represent what we were doing at the time. So in order to get into this, we got to step back a bit to Parshas Vayetze. Okay, Parshas Vayishlach, this week's Parsha starts with Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim El Esav Achiv. And we're going to see who those Malachim were and why. But in order to do so, we got to step back to Parshas Vayetze. In Vayetze, when Yaakov Avinu was leaving Eretz Yisrael, he had the dream where he fell asleep and he saw Malachei Elokim Olim V'Yordim Bo, saw these angels going up and down. Now, the Das Kenim from the Balei Tosfos, right? So this is the Tosfos, the same Tosfos we have in the Gemara. In their second explanation in the Chumash, they say these Malachim were the Malachim that came to overturn Sodom. And why were they there at the time? They made a mistake. They said, Hovchim Anachnu, says we're going to turn over Sodom. They said themselves. They made it as if it's something they're doing instead of saying Hashem's doing it. So therefore, the Medrash says that they were banished from closeness to Hashem for 135 years. And now they were able to come up again in the Schus of Yaakov. So it's brought in Yonatan ben Uzziah. Now, this is very strange. Number one, why did the punishment end now? What does it have to do with Yaakov? And they were sent to accompany Yaakov when he was leaving Eretz Yisrael. Why dafka those malachim? And also, how can it be malachim? Rashi said one was Gavriel, one was Raphael. How can it be that malachim would make a mistake like that? Human beings do that kind of stuff. How would a malach do something like that? So here we're going to be learning a lot from Rav Moshe Wolson. That's out tonight. Right? Again, it's within the year. So he said, the Arizal tells us on the famous thing when it says, "Vavarti beretz Mitzrayim ani v'lo malach," right? At the Pesach Seder, it say, Hashem says, "I came over Eretz Mitzrayim. I came, not a malach, not a saraf, not a shliach. Ani," right? I myself. Why? So he explained, because Mitzrayim was so full of tumah, so spiritually negative, that even a malach would get corrupted there. It wasn't possible to send a malach. It was such a center of tumah. So he says the same thing applied to Sodom. Sodom was so tamei that it had to be destroyed in a very elaborate manner. So therefore, even the malachim who were there got a little warped when they were there, and they ended up saying something that shouldn't have been. Okay, now, they got exiled, so to speak, and somehow Yaakov Avinu was the one who fixed it. How do you fix it? So he says that if a tzaddik has fought the same battle that you failed in, but the tzaddik won, that tzaddik can then help you fix yourself also. So Yaakov Avinu, at the point the Malachim met him, had taken that 14-year break in the yeshiva of Shein Ve'ever, because he knew that he was going into another center of Tumah. Okay, Lavan's house was also a very bad Tumah zone, and he prepared himself so that he would be able to withstand. Because he was that person, so then he was able to help out these malachim as well. He knew what they dealt with. He knew what and why they failed. He worked on improving, and therefore he was able to help them. So now, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim. These are the malachim that greeted Yaakov Avinu when he's returning to Eretz Yisrael. These malachim were banished because the environment of Sodom got them to say something improper. Yaakov Avinu, they met him and he helped them when he had prepared himself to withstand Lavan. And now he's coming back and he did it. 20 years in the Gullus by Lavan. I think I'd mentioned it once before. The Shem Shmuel says a fascinating thing. He says, why was Esav such a batman? Meaning, Yaakov Avinu ran away, Vayishlach, he escaped. If you know the geography, so Haran there is not so far away from Eretz Yisrael. Why didn't Esav get on his camel, get on his donkey, take some men, and go finish off Yaakov in Lavan's house? Right? Not so hard. He was known, we said he already did. He had experience. So Shem Shmuel said a fascinating thing. He said, and it's what's the psychological property, what they call projection. Says, a Rasha views a tzaddik like himself. He said the following. He said, okay, what I got out of Yitzchak Avinu was that if Yaakov goes down, I go up. Meaning, yeah, it's true, Yaakov got all the brachas, but it's dependent on his behavior. Right? That's what it says. When you will have the ability to object, which means that Yaakov has gone down from his behavior, then you throw off that yoke of Yaakov from your neck. He says, Yaakov, this yeshiva guy, is going to Lavan's house. Lavan's house is like, I don't know, the main street of Las Vegas. It's the whatever place you want to think of, that's where it is. He says, just let him get there. There's going to be no more Yaakov. Right? He's going to become Jake the snake or something. I don't know what. And it's just going to be gone. And therefore, it'll take care of itself. Right? He didn't understand that Yaakov actually had the ability to not only withstand, maintain himself there, but even to grow from the experience. So this was the return of Yaakov Avinu. So these Malochi, who were fixed by Yaakov, so to speak, from being influenced by Sodom, they came to greet him as he returned victoriously. And that was the message that they brought. These were the same Malachim he sent to Esav. And they brought this message in Lavan Garti, which Rashi brings down, Garti, like Taryag, V'taryag mitzvot shamarti, right? Meaning, I didn't get affected, okay? Because the question is always, how did he keep the Taryag mitzvahs? I was keeping the Taryag mitzvahs, but the idea is that Yaakov Avinu himself is designed for the Taryag mitzvahs, and he remained that person. So therefore it came, and this was a strong message to Esau, meaning, do you realize what he did? Do you realize what he accomplished in Lavan's house? Not only surviving there, but thriving there. Be very careful, right, of starting up with Yaakov. That was the Vayishlach. Okay, so these are the Malachim that we're bumping into here. Now, let's take a look at Yaakov's Avoda in the house of Lavan. Okay, in terms of what he's doing there and on the way there. So, again, on the ladder, so to speak, which we have. Hold a second. Yeah, the Medrash Tanchuma says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded Yaakov Avinu, again with the vision of the ladder, to go up the ladder. Right? It says he saw in the Medrash that all the different Malchios, Bavel went up, Modai went up. They all lasted for the amount of years that they had ruled. And Yaakov Avinu was afraid to go up. Okay, he was afraid to go. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, so therefore your children are going to have to be subjugated to these four kingdoms. Okay, and the Medrash seems to criticize Yaakov Avinu. Right? He said there's a pasuk b'cholzos chatu od v'lo ha'aminu b'niflaosav until him describing Am Yisrael, and the Mefarshim in the Medrash said that Am Yisrael ended up having a lack of belief in Hashem in the future because Yaakov Avinu had this lack of belief. He was afraid to go up on the ladder, even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to go up. V'yivtiach lo shelo yipoch. He promised Yaakov Avinu he wouldn't fall. Now this sounds very strange to us, right? Rav Wolson says, if any of us had a nevuah where Hashem says, go up this ladder, don't worry, you're not going to fall. Okay, right? Hashem said, where would Yaakov not? Also, we find that the Zohar Kodesh refers to the same event, so to speak, in the Medrash and praises Yaakov. It says, you know what? Yaakov refused to go up the ladder. But then Yaakov lay down, Vayishka b'makom mahur, and he had this dream, V'hinei Hashem nitzav olo. Hashem was standing over him where he was lying down. And this word nitzav connects to something. In Malachim, in Sefer Malachim, it says, Ein be'edom nitzav melech. There was no governing king in Edom. Meaning Yaakov Avinu somehow, by refusing to go up the ladder, but instead lying down on the ground, that gave him koach to overcome Esav. Okay, so what's going on here? So he says like this. The stories of Yaakov Avinu and Golus are all preparation for Am Yisrael's time in Golus. And the different types of Golus, and we should mention, is not just national Golus, but personal Golus. We all go through our own personal Golios. And his time of Lavan, of going down there, and the stories of Yosef, as we'll see in the future, have to do with this time of Chanuka. Ner Chanuka is the last mitzvah that the Chachamim enacted. Okay, we have 7 mitzvahs to Rabbanon. Ner Chanuka is the last one. The Gemara fascinatingly talks about the idea of the Megillah being the last mitzvah, which is there. And the Gemara asks, wait, what about Chanuka? And the Gemara answers, Nitna li kosev kamrina. We're talking about ones that are written down. Right? That's Esther's the end of the Nisim. That is the one which is written down. Hanukkah is not written down. One beautiful explanation I saw for that is because Hanukkah is just the beginning of the story. The Nates of Hanukkah gets bigger every year, right, as we go. That's a story, that's a book that's still being written. So here we have him in the house of Lavan, going into the darkness. So he says, the Ner Hanukkah was designed for the Golus. That's the mitzvah, so to speak, that accompanies Am Yisrael in the Golus, like Yaakov Avinu had to have something he brought with him into the Golus as well. Rav Tzadok HaKohen points out, both Chanukah and Purim, actually, you can fulfill 100% any place in the world. We often don't pay attention that most of our Yom Tovim were not doing the whole thing, because something would have had to been done in the Beis HaMikdash. That's true for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shavuos. There always was an avodah in the Beis HaMikdash and Korbanos and all these things. Chanukah, even though the Beis HaMikdash was up and running during Chanukah, no part of it was designed to be dependent on the Beis HaMikdash. You can fulfill Chanukah 100% in South Dakota. You can fulfill it in Timbuktu. You can fulfill it anywhere. It was given as that portable mitzvah, that portable light that every Jew can take with himself every place he goes. Okay, so this, now Ner Chanukah has some very special days. The Gemara tells us that the Ner Chanukah, the wicks and oils you can use, or even wicks and oils that we wouldn't be able to use for Shabbos candles. These low-quality wicks and oils representing, right, that even Jews that don't get reached by Shabbos can get reached by Ner Chanukah and can themselves reach Ner Chanukah. Again, just a very simple equation to put in your mind. We say this interesting thing in Aneros Halalu about these candles, cannot use them for our purposes, only see them. Now, there's no qualification on this. If you have a Jew who doesn't keep Shabbos and who has a cheeseburger to give him strength just before his Hanukkah lighting, and he lights his neros, am I allowed to go light up something on his neros? No. Why? This guy? Correct. On Hanukkah, neros halalu kodesh. No matter who the Jew is, because he has that inside of himself. And that is what Am Yisrael need in order not to drown in this. Okay, now Yaakov Avinu, instead of going up the ladder, he laid down on the ground. Now, another fascinating halacha about Ner Chanuka is that l'chatchila, right, the ultimate best height for lighting the Ner Chanuka is under 10 tefachim, under 10 hands breadths. There's a statement in Chazal that I don't really understand so much. I've tried asking some people. La'olam lo yarda shechina lamata me'asar. The Shechina, the divine presence, has never gone below 10, aside from Chanuka. That idea that our Neros Halalu Kodesh, that Kedusha is there, that means on Chanuka, it reaches the lowest places. That's why Yaakov Avinu laid down. Yaakov didn't want to go up the ladder because he was afraid that maybe there would be some neshamas that wouldn't be able to go up with him. So therefore he said, I would rather lie down in the lowest place. And the Shechina came to him. V'nei Hashem nitzav olav. Said that is what brought it. And then Yaakov Avinu made a matzeva and poured shemen on it. So Midrashin bring, the Shachal Torah brings down, that was the shemen that they found in the Beis HaMikdash. That shemen has a pedigree, that oil, the olive oil. It started with Yaakov Avinu, that he poured that shemen which was there, and he made a neder. A neder, he says, is something more than a shvur. Shvur is based on sheva, 7. The person gives all of himself to this idea that he takes an oath for. A neder is above that. That's already from the world of 8. Okay, so therefore, this is what Yaakov Avinu was doing, what he was involved in at the time. And he says, this is a great comfort to us. He says, Parshas chizuk v'nechama. This is great strength and nechama to Jews. You have to realize that we're never that far gone. We're never too too low for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to reach us. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that talks about, right, not getting caught. B'yevein hamatzula. Yevein hamatzula means like quicksand. Okay, quicksand. Now, that has the same letters as Yovan, Yevain and Yovan. Rav Moshe Wolson pointed out, just looking at the word Yovan, it starts with the Yud, a small dot. It extends to a Vav, extends further into the final Nun. Down, down, and down further. It starts, Yud always represents an initial thought. But then Yovan brought it down, 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 right into the depths, taking concepts that could be spiritual and locking them into the physical world and the world of Teva. And that's the quicksand that a Jew could get lost into and be attracted by their ideas, but then going their pathway and going all the way down. So Chanuka has the ability to bring us out of that, even if you're in there. Okay? Yaakov Avinu stubbornly wanted to be sure that the Shechina would reach every Jew in every place, and every Jew would be reachable in every place. Being able to bring us up even when we're in the depths. So therefore, he finishes this idea, a person should never despair. Should never give up on himself, depressed. You just have to let yourself get elevated, because it's possible. And these Parshas, right, hold that secret inside of there. The things that Yaakov Avinu did, and the fact that he went down there and he struggled in Lavan and the land of Lavan, this is all for us, right? And it's all there in potential that we can ride along at that. Now, let's take a look at Parshas Vayishlach. So, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim, the fun of Eletz Esav Achiv. Yaakov sent these Malachim ahead to Esav. So the Medrash says the following. Ravuna Pasach, Machzik Ba'ozne Kelev, over Misaber al Riv Lolo. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. Someone who grabs the ears of a dog that's passing is getting involved in a fight that's not his. What are you starting up with this dog? Dog's walking by you in the street, you grab his ears. It's not going to end well. Okay, so he says, the marshal to like a head of the robbers who's taking a nap by the ground. And somebody came and woke him up because he said, hey, you're in danger. Somebody could run over you. But meanwhile, this robber woke up and he beat the guy up. So said HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Yaakov, Esav, the darko haya ma'alech. Okay, Esav was doing his thing. Ata sholech of la'oro. What are you sending messengers to him? Why do you start up with it? It's a fascinating midrash, right? Especially if we try to put the details in. So he's trying to show us, again, what Yaakov is trying to do. Now, Esav is complicated. Esav, remember, is not even like Ishmael, who came from another wife from Hagar. Esav was a twin brother of Yaakov. Esav was a son of Yitzchak and Rivka. And again, the Midrashim say that Esav had a chance. He could have been Yaakov's partner. 6 Shvatim could have come from him. And therefore he says like this, Be'emes hoyu be'esav nitzotzos kedusha v'chalokim tovim asher lenachulo b'tor ben Avram v'Yitzchak. Esav had sparks of kedusha inside of him. That was in his DNA, coming to him from Avram and Yitzchak. It was in there. And these sparks were kind of captured inside of him. Now, here, I saw this last week. I found this mind-blowing. A tiny piece of Sfas Emes, which referred to a medrash Tanchumen Vayetze. It says, Vayetze Yaakov Beersheva Yelech Harana. Says, Lehechan Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu. Okay, the medrash often does this. They go into like a halacha. Hahoreges hanefesh bishgoga lehechan oyakola. If someone killed accidentally, but with a certain amount of negligence, he has to go into exile to a city of refuge, an Ir Miklot. Right? That's what Chachamim said. Oreg nefesh vishgoga gola alareg Miklot. Yaakov Avinu gola lecharon. And Yaakov Avinu went into Golus and Charan.
He didn't kill anybody. Because he didn't kill anybody.
But he didn't kill anybody. Exactly. So that's
why measure connects us.
Oh, so it says this Sfas Emes because he was held guilty for the fact that Esav was nidche, that Esav was rejected. Meaning Yaakov could have transformed Esav, could have helped the Esav. Because Yaakov was such a midah of emes that he could have helped even Esav, says the Sfas Emes. Just Yaakov didn't believe it was possible, so he didn't do it. And therefore he was sent into Golus. Now, when you tie that into what we're finding here when Yaakov's on the way back, he sends these messengers to Esav. He says he sends them to awaken these sparks of Kedusha that are inside of Esav. Right? Now, it didn't work entirely. I saw one of the Mefarshim said that oftentimes when someone's arrogant and you send him Kedusha, right? This was sending his malachim, just makes him more arrogant, right? It's just like watering poison ivy. You get more poison ivy. But even so, Yaakov wanted at least that there should be a hemshech of Esav, meaning that there was good in Esav. Let's look again at that medrash. It says, the head of the robbers was sleeping by the road. The guy came to wake him up, the tovosov. Say, hey, get up, you're in a dangerous place. And the guy beat him up. Where here was Yaakov doing this l'tovoso when he was sending these malachim to Esav? It says he wanted l'kayim chelki ha-kedusha asher b'kirbo. He wanted the kedusha that was in Esav, at least to survive. It would have to be extracted from him. It was entrapped in Esav, and Esav himself now was a lost cause. He didn't respond, even though it says when he hugged him, according to one shita, it was real, right? And the other shita that he was trying to bite his neck. So it says in the Gemara Avodas, the Pasuk in the Haftarah from Ovadia said, "V'lo yasari beis Esav." There will be no remainder of beis Esav. But Chazal said, "Maseches Avodas ba'osem ma'aseh Esav," only if he acts like Esav. Avol be'enos ma'aseh Esav yasard the Esav. But if he doesn't, they can survive. He can have descendants, so to speak. And that's what Yaakov was trying to accomplish at the time. Now, when he kissed Esav, so to speak, he extracted from him that Kedusha, which appeared throughout Jewish history. Right? Rabbi Meir, for example, comes from Neron Caesar, the Roman general who was sent to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. He didn't want to. He abandoned ship and was Mizgaya. And his descendant was Rabbi Meir. And that's all the Mishnayos, they say, or Liva the Rabbi Meir, right? It comes, Rebbe, again, wrote the Mishnah due to the good relationship he had with Antoninus. Rabbi Akiva also gave him, I think, also from roots in Esav, right? And so it was that he was able to bring this out and bring it up. So this also is the theme of Hanukkah, meaning there are sparks of Kedusha that are everywhere. Hanukkah we light outside, right? Initially in the street, right? In the dark, because this is what we're able to do. We're able to bring out those things that are hiding in there. And especially Jews that become entrapped in Golos. That we're able to do. It's a fascinating thing that Jews of all types do have an attraction to Chanuka. They can't necessarily explain it, what and why. Sometimes they say, well, it's easy and there's not complicated halachas and these things, but it's something very powerful. And it brings out in every Jew, like we said, there was a story about the Chosev Lublin, that people came to the Chosev Lublin on Hanukkah to complain that there was a really evil guy in their town. He was a Meiser, meaning Jews in those days, with the way they were unfairly taxed and not allowed to work, etc. So many of them, they earned their living by a bit of smuggling, things like that. And a Meiser, an informer, would turn them in, right? This is viewed as one of the worst things there in Judaism. So they came to the Chosev Lublin to complain about this person. And it happened to be on Chanukkah that they visited the Chosev. And they came to him at night, and he said, what's the man's name? And the Chosev was called the Chosev, which means the seer, because he could see everything. He said, this man is walking Kedusha. This man you're talking about, right? He shines with Kedusha. They're looking at each other, what? Right? I mean, you got to clean his seer's glasses. They couldn't understand. And eventually they discovered that that was when that man was lighting their Hanukkah. When they spoke to the Chosev was when he was lighting their Hanukkah. He was a rat before and after. But when lighting their Chanuka, what he had inside shines. Okay, so that's what we have to know, which is there. And that, he says, was preparation of Yaakov Avinu. This was what he was doing in his heroic battle in the tomb of Laban's house. When he was there, he was doing that for us and for each and everyone. When he laid down on the ground, that was for us. Even when we're down and out, that the Shekhinah comes to us. When does that particularly happen on Hanukkah? When it goes below the 10 Tfachim. When every wick and oil can be ignited, even the ones that aren't good enough to be lit on Shabbos. The Shabbos doesn't do it sometimes for people. They're so far gone, but Hanukkah does. And Hanukkah can. And a person has to believe in themselves to know what they can light and how they can ignite. A wonderful Chanuka.